In this video, we are going to design the e-commerce application with the microservices architecture. So we will iterate the architecture design one by one as per our requirements. But before that, let's remember our problem. What is the problem with previous architecture, which is the modular monolithic architecture? And the problem is scale and deploy independently. Because our business teams separated as per the departments, and business teams wants to be agile, add new features immediately, innovate and experiment new features as soon as possible, deploy features immediately, not waiting deployment dates. And also they would like to be flexible scale for market peak times like Black Friday sales, and they would like to handle and process millions of requests in an acceptable latency with better performance. And it should require not only technology change but also organizational change is mandatory, and the solution is microservice architecture. So now, before we design our system, we should ask ourselves what we have in our design toolbox and what we have learned so far. So that means every time when we design our architecture, we should always write down functional and non-functional requirements. After that, we will see architecture and patterns. By the way, for microservices, we have start from the scratch and remove monolithic related items in our toolbox, because microservices is required different mindset to reset toolbox and design from the scratch. For that reason, let's see our function requirement. It has no change, but if you look at the non-functional requirement, you can see that all our non-functional requirements are adapted for the microservice architecture. These are the high scalability, high availability, millions of concurrent users, independent deployable, technology agnostic, data isolation, resilience, and fault isolation. These are the benefits of microservice architectures that will come our architecture. So we have updated our non-functional requirement that we should cover these functionalities into our design. So now let's look at the architecture. Of course, we will use microservice architecture now, and it is good to adding our toolbox pattern and principles. Here you can see our learned pattern and principles. These are the database per service pattern and polyglot persistent principle. Now we learned for this chapter these pattern and principles and ready for the refactor our design as per our current toolbox, which including all these items. So here you can see the final architecture design for our e-commerce application, which is applying microservices architecture. Now our application growing with new features. Business teams request a lot of new features immediately deployed to provide time to market and compete with rivals, and we need to organize better with the microservices approaches, both organizational and technical perspective. For that reason, we have created small independent services that communicate over well-defined APIs. Services are owned by small self-contained teams, and services composed of many loosely coupled and independently deployable smaller components. Services have their own technology stack and communicate to each other over a combination of REST API and organized by business capabilities with the bounded context patterns, and following the single responsibility principle that separating responsibilities as per the services. So you can see that we have product, shopping cart, ordering, discount microservices that each service data in their own database. Any change to one database don't impact the other microservices. The services database can't be accessed directly to other microservice databases. Each service persistent data can only be accessed via REST APIs. That means we apply the database per service pattern and polyglot persistent principles. As you can see that we have designed our e-commerce application with using microservice architecture and handle our non-functional requirements. Of course, this is the initial first iteration of our microservice architecture, and it requires to evolve with iterations one by one. Now we can handle good amount of requests in our e-commerce application, but still we can develop this architecture. Let's see how we can improve the current architecture.